it.
Nothing after the press conference today?
Yes.
Said about that?
Yes.
Lindy wanted me to mention, when you guys enter the stadium this year, be sure you go through the north parking entrance instead of south, so you'll cut all the way through, go through the north side. And there's gonna be a special entry gate, like a tent this year, instead of going straight to the elevator, there'll be a media tent, because they're doing the clear bag thing. So you guys won't have to have clear bags, but you'll need to have your bags checked.
Is that still on, is that on the north side or the south?
It's on the north side, it's still, yeah, it's kind of where the, you know where the TV production trucks are, that's where it'll be, so. So Coach Whitt will talk about it, remember the pass, Mike? Call for it, we'll bring it up.
Okay, we're eager to get the season started. As always, every time, or every year at this time, you're anxious to hit somebody else instead of yourselves. We've been, had a very good fall camp. Came out of it relatively healthy. Very few injuries other than a few bumps and bruises. A couple guys that were not going to be with us, but for the most part, pretty healthy fall camp. Team's been working hard. This team's got a great work ethic, very focused, and I, for one, am excited to watch them play on Thursday night. So, questions?
You have a couple of guys on the defensive line making their first starts against Weber State, Pujatau and Tafua.
Right.
What did they do to kind of emerge and grab that starting spot?
Well, in Howard's case, first of all, we have 4 D tackles that we think are all starting caliber tackles: Lecky, Howard, Pita, and John Penasini. And so all 4 of those guys are, for the most part, on equal footing. They're interchangeable. But Howard probably has had a little bit of an edge through camp as far as consistency. And then Mika Tafua really started to come on in the last half of camp. Things really started to click for him and started to feel comfortable at the spot and ended up earning that defensive end spot. So him and Bradley are the clear 2 starting defensive ends. It's not quite as even as it is at defensive tackle.
Can you describe your relationship with Jay Hill and just your thoughts on how he resurrected that Weber State program?
Yeah, first of all, me and Jay are very close. He was one of my first hires when I got the head job way back when. Coached very well for us his entire time here. He was very versatile. He coached special teams. He coached defense. He coached offense. Outstanding recruiter, and so he was very valuable to our any success we had here. And then when he moved on and had the opportunity to be the head coach at Weber, it doesn't surprise me at all what he's doing there and the success he's had and will continue to have. I mean, he's a smart guy that's well organized, very disciplined, and has a very good rapport with his players. I think that's how I sum that up.
With Jay and several of his staff having come through Utah, when you look at their game film, how much Utah do you see in that? How much of that influence?
A lot on the defensive side of the ball. Very similar philosophies and techniques and defensive structures. Offensively, of course, the new coordinator, Dave Schramm, and he's was at Fresno prior, so we went a lot to the Fresno film from a couple years back, and it's markedly different than what we were doing when he was here. For the most part, we did start to get into some of that stuff, but Dave is a guy that he knows what he likes to do. He did a good job at Fresno and had success there, and so it's just, and anytime you're in an opener, it's a lot of guesswork and best guess scenario. You're not really sure what you're going to see, so you got to stay fairly vanilla on both sides of the ball.
How did the quarterbacking order turn out the way it did?
Well, it was a very heated battle between number 2 and 3, and Jason just had slightly edged out Jack, and that combined with the fact that Jack has a redshirt year, Jason doesn't, put us in the situation now where Jason's number 2 and Jack's number 3. That's still, they're still competing. There's still Jack will continue to get some reps during the course of the week. In season, the practice routine, But for right now, that's how it is. If something, it could change. But our plan, if we can get the red shirt on Jack this year and be able to have him, preserve that year of eligibility, that would be ideal. But we'll see how it unfolds.
Kyle, does it go more to the depth that you have at wide receiver that players like Solomon Enos and Terrell Perriman aren't cracking that too deep?
Well, Solomon's going to play, and Terrell's probably a little further away. But Solomon, we just have a pretty talented group of receivers that we think anyways, and guys that aren't really don't have a lot of experience. But Solomon's going to figure into what we're doing this year. Terrell most likely will be a redshirt if we can do that. Again, with the new rule, what is a redshirt? He's going to play some, but can't, hopefully not more than 4 games, unless he's pressed into duty by virtue of injury at that position. But we have some guys that we really think are good players, and Solomon's right there amongst those guys. He's just not quite in the 2 deep, but he'll be in the rotation.
Kyle, you're starting your second season with Tyler as your quarterback. Can you just talk about his progression and how he withstood the competition at the position?
Yeah, well, first of all, he's doing everything better than he did last year. I mean, he was very good last year for us, but he's just a year older, more mature, has that year of competition under his belt, and he's a seasoned veteran, I guess you could say, and has done a great job running the offense ever since. In the off season ever since last spring, and his decision making is better. Not that it was bad, but he's just improved in all areas. There was no glaring weakness. The thing that it was concerning was the amount of hits he took last year. He knows that. We've talked about that a lot, and that's one of the primary objectives this year is to make sure he's not subjected to as many hits as he was last year.
Coach, you play a lot. You play an FCS team most years. Do you have a preference on whether you play a local team like Weber or SUU as opposed to a Idaho State or North Dakota?
Not really, not personally. If it keeps more dollars in the state of Utah and in the programs in the state, I think that's a good thing. But as far as just outside of that, not really any preference either way.
Hey, Coach, from Facebook, Derek Higgs would like to know, how is the game mentality different?
When did we start that?
Today.
Okay. All right. Start over. Okay. I lost my train of thought there.
So Derek Higgs from Facebook, how is the game mentality different when you play in-state teams versus out-of-state teams?
Well, in this case, I don't think there's a different mentality playing open up with Weber State as opposed to, some of the other teams we've opened up with in years past. Obviously the rivalry game has a little different flavor to it, but I don't think there's a huge difference, particularly in the opener.
Coach, what did you see from Francis Bernard, and when did he earn that backup spot?
Francis has gotten better and better ever since he joined us. What you would expect. Obviously, he was a little bit out of shape, not grossly out of shape, but a little bit out of shape, and obviously didn't have a great knowledge of our scheme yet. But he's been on an upward trajectory ever since he got in the program. He's a tremendously hard worker. He pays attention to detail. He works extra, in the film room, and in that respect to make him a better football player. But he's a guy that just kept, elevating each practice, making more plays, and that's why he's here. That's why we welcome him with open arms to our program, because we know he's a talented kid.
Yeah, this question is from my wife.
Okay.
You've got an or at left guard. Is that going to be this week decided?
It will be decided through their play. How about that? So it's not going to be a situation where, it's going to be anything but productivity. I mean, they're both going to get reps, and, if there becomes a separation between the two, a definite separation, then the reps will be divvied up accordingly. But if they continue to be on equal footing, they'll both continue to play. And it should be noted that Nick Ford will probably be our first guy, not probably, would be our first tackle. If we had an issue with either tackle, then Nick Ford would bounce outside and Orlando would step up in the guard spot.
Troy Taylor started last year on the field, then went up in the booth, and now he's going to be up in the booth this year.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he feel more comfortable up there, do you think?
I think he just has better perspective, and you can see things unfolding better from upstairs. It's just the vantage point is better. And other than that, no real benefit other than just being able to see, how the defense is operating, what coverage they're rolling to, and stuff like that.
Sometimes when you do the same thing for an extended period of time, it grows stale. What keeps you excited about coaching from year to year?
Oh, the competition. I mean, for one thing, just being in the competitive arena, being around the players. I love watching these young men develop and mature and grow in your program. As I've said many times, when we joined the Pac-12 8 years ago, I guess it is now, it was like getting a new job. I mean, it was everything changed, and so that was definitely a shot in the arm. But I just enjoy coaching. Just enjoy the every aspect of it, and particularly on game days.
What's your reaction to the release that the 2008 team is considered a national poll champion now? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, that was interesting. I still don't know. I haven't been completely educated on exactly the particulars of it. But, we thought we were a pretty good team that year, and I voted us number one. We were the only undefeated team in the country, and, it's all, even now, it's speculative and mythical. I mean, until they have a full-on, real playoff system, and not people voting for who's in it or people voting who's the best, then it's all speculative and it's all, best guess scenario. And so, again, we thought we were pretty darn good that year. We did everything we were supposed to do. There's not one other thing we could have done to state our case, but I don't think we're going to, be self-proclaimed and put up a banner or anything like that. I don't know. I haven't talked to administration about it yet, to be honest with you. And so, we'll see how things, what the best course of action is. But for right now, I haven't given it a lot of thought.
Are you planning on splitting carries at running back with Armand Shine and Zach Moss, 80-20, something like that, or is it Zach all the way?
Armand Shine will get time and get carries, but Zach is the lead back. We don't have an exact percentage that we've talked about as far as who's going to get what, but Zach Moss, I believe, is an elite back in the country and particularly in the Pac-12, obviously. And Armand Shine is a guy that's we got a lot of faith in as well. It's a great problem to have. And we'll utilize both of them, but Zach Moss is the lead back.
Coach, what is the benefit or drawback of opening in a season against an FCS opponent as opposed to a Power 5 opponent?
I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I mean, there's benefits to opening up with like a Michigan, like we did a few years ago, and there's benefits to a 1AA. I just think we don't really concern ourselves too much who we're playing. You do, your preparation is very similar. There's not a lot of difference in your fall camp or your preparation or anything like that. So it's just, as I always say, you just play them as they unfold, and whoever's up next, that's where our focus is, and go from there. Does that answer that? I don't know if that answers that.
Is there a benefit? I guess, do you get more benefit by being tested early in the season?
I think that might be relative to the type of team you have coming back. If you got a really experienced team, then you're probably more equipped and more willing to be tested right off the bat. But Weber's, they're going to be a test. They're a good football team. They went deep into the playoffs last year. Should have gone, should have won that last game, and they're very well coached and could have beat Cal last year. It was either the opener or the second game last year. They gave Cal such a run for their money.
This is the 10th straight year you've opened on a Thursday at home. What do you like about that calendar?
Yeah.
And also, do you have a most memorable game in that stretch?
In the openers? Well, probably Michigan. We opened with Michigan. Was that on a Thursday as well? I thought that was, Thursday. So open on a Thursday. There's a couple pros, couple cons. You got to start camp a few days earlier, which makes it, a shorter summer for your guys. You get extra time for the second game, which can be a benefit. You get 9 days instead of 7. So there's it's pluses and minuses. And I've never really asked the question why we always open on Thursday. Well, Liz, why do we do that?
We like it because our fans can do things on Labor Day weekend.
Well, we're big time Pac-12 now. They'll show up for no matter what. So
Yeah,
maybe
you like it too.
Some things about it, yeah, some things.
Talk to Mark.
All right. Oh, Mark's back there. Why do we do that, Mark? Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Hey, Coach, Tyrone Smith isn't listed on the two deep. Is he still factoring into that rotation, or is
He
just
is. He's got I don't know if say a minor injury, but an injury that's kept him out and will continue to keep him out for a period of time longer. As soon as he's healthy, he'll be back in that two deep. Just right now, he's not available.
Anything else for Coach Witt?
You guys have been great. Thank you. Appreciate it.